Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Tourismus Namibia, our show that we bring to you each Sunday, where we bring you a bit of news about topics, destinations, and also a little item under to the point. So first up, it would be topics, and as you can see this week we'll be speaking a bit about the trusted travel system just once more. And we'll also have a look at tourism, simply because there was a report by the IPPR that focused a bit on how tourism needs to be revived. And then thirdly, we'll look at fuel, just a bit of a relief there, I think, which might be of interest to visitors to Namibia as well. Then we'll, under destinations, have a look at the Spitzkoppe in that area. And we'll also talk about the Venetian Biennale. And thereafter, we'll also speak to Jeffrey Barbee. Some of you guys will remember him. We had him as a guest before, and he'll be speaking about Alliance Earth. And as part of that, we'll have a bit about what we call Africa Burn. It is just a video that we'll bring to you, a part of it. Here you can see it. So that's what's coming up during our show. But first of all, we obviously will have a look at topics. Right, welcome back. And topics it is. And first up, we have the trusted travel system. It's been around for a while now, so people can get their COVID-19 certificates on it. And so what we did is we just looked a bit at how to get there. So the best for you is to look up this Bios. And if you click on Get Started, this is the page where you need to register. And then what I did is I took some information from ATI Holidays, and they're basically taking you through it. So if we look at the next screen, this is a thingy that we will certainly publish on our internet site, or for that matter on our Facebook site, because ATI has done quite a lot of work and put in there where they explain in detail how and what you need to do, which documents you need to insert where, what you have to save, and whatever you need to do. So it's quite a detailed thing, and I've made JPEGs of their document, which we will then, as I've said here, we will certainly post on the Facebook site. Now, seeing that I'm making use of ATI Holidays material, I just thought that I should also tell you who they are. So you will see there, like I said here, ATI will definitely post them on the Facebook site. But if you look at the next photo, this is just a quick snap of their internet page, which I looked up. ATI Holidays, quite interesting. They offer various solutions, as you can see here on the map: Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. Then obviously also in the Madagascar and so on. So very interesting. If you want to follow that, we will definitely give you more on that trusted travel system, because I think it's important for you people to understand what you can do and what you need to do in order to ease your entrance into Namibia, and for that matter also if you want to go out of Namibia to South Africa, how to get hold of your COVID-19 vaccination certificates. Right, and then we're taking a look at tourism. IPPR this week had a bit of a look at how to revive tourism after COVID-19, and it's a broad question that was put in a new report by the Institute for Public Policy Research, as I said, IPPR, and Dietrich Remmert is the guy who compiled a report, and Remmert comes to the conclusion that Namibia is well positioned to take advantage of the international trend of sustainable and conscious travel and to transform itself accordingly in order to improve competitiveness. Now, the report looks at quite a number of singular items that are assessed to actually make sure that we can make it. But one of the issues that Remmert put particular emphasis on is effective communication. And as part of that, he sees there's a need for an open and in-depth discussion about the near and distant future of the sector, in which all industry stakeholders should participate. We've been hearing all these noises on the side that some people feel left out, and suddenly we have individuals who try and present themselves as representatives for the industry, but it turns out that they actually follow their own interests. And then on the other hand, there's that accusation all the time that the industry has all these various organizations, but the organizations do not truly represent everybody anymore. So there needs to be something done about it. We've spoken about it on the show before. Remember, we had Gita Petzold of the Hospitality Association of Namibia here, and so on. But the one thing that Remmert also named as a risk is the fact that the country's reputation is that one of being an environmentally conscious paradise, and that's how he put it. But then government goes and pursues resource extraction in terms of oil and gas, and he says you can't marry those two. It's not a good idea to do that. But that we've been speaking about for a long term now. But it seems to me that there are more and more organizations who see this as a very, very big problem. Right, and then finally fuel. We had some good news. Government has decided to drop the fuel prices a bit. It's a temporary reduction. It's only for May so far, so we won't know how long that is. But the Ministry of Mines and Energy announced that they would drop the petrol price by 1.2 Namibia dollars. So 1 Namibia dollar 20 cents, and the price of diesel will decrease by 30 cents. So it's not much, but it helps a lot, and it's obviously started last Thursday. So petrol now costs $17.90, and diesel costs $19.93. So depending on transport costs, it might be different, because those are the pump prices in Warfish Bay, but obviously depending on where you stay in Namibia, it might be slightly higher still. And government has basically announced that they will absorb costs up to around about 51.5 million Namibia dollars by simply dropping their various subsidies or whatever is built into the petrol price. So we're looking at the National Energy Fund and all those type of extra taxes. That's what it really boils down to. Right, and those are our topics for today. Up next, we've got destination. Yeah, I said destination there. Obviously, we're talking of destinations. By the way, just now that I see my name flashing up, I don't ever think I introduced myself properly. I'm obviously Frank Steffen, as you could read on the screen. I'm the editor of Allgemeine Zeitung, but then obviously also responsible for Tourismus Namibia. So sorry for taking a bit of time today to do that. Destinations. I recently spent some time in the area of Spitzkoppe. Haven't been there for a long time, and so the approach that we did is, instead of driving the tar roads, as you can see here on the map, there is the option to go down past Danfilune Reserve and go over the Boshua Pass, but we actually turned off before that and went past Ochimbingwe. You need to be aware that you need a 4x4 in some of those areas because the road is very bad. But anyway, we went up to Spitzkoppe, as you can see there. It's just to the left-hand side or western side of Irongo. And so it can be seen as these little blips there. There you can see them more clearly. This is where we're headed. It took us a bit of time. We left early in the mornings, but we arrived around about lunchtime, as I said, because we drove via Ochimbingwe, which is then obviously the longer road. We stayed at Spitzkoppe Spitzkoppe tented camp, if you looked at the previous map. But there is another alternative here at Spitzkoppe Community Rest Camp. Now I'll tell you why I'm telling you about this. If we start looking at the photos, obviously I made quite a number of those. This was the road down as you turn off towards Ochimbingwe, and the road in the beginning is very good, but later on becomes very, very rough. There's no two-way. We had to drive through in 4x4 mode at one stage. But it's a very, very nice area, as you can see here. We had some rain on the way that came in from the right-hand side. This was then, obviously, as we had passed Karibib and Yusakos and went up to Spitzkoppe. This is the road as we approached the tented camp. Here you can see Spitzkoppe tented camp, the turnoff. It's quite some way ahead of the community camp. We had a very nice camp there. We chose this camp because we were allowed to take our dogs along. And the campsite itself is very nice. There are also tented camps on wooden stilts and platforms and whatever. But the sites are very nice. I must, however, warn you. Management has big signs saying that people should be quiet as from 10 o'clock in the evening, but they don't enforce that rule. What the result is that we had neighbors, not direct neighbors, but some neighbors who were very, very loud. And that can become an issue to some people. I must admit that we were annoyed at one stage, but like I said, in this camp, you're allowed to take your dogs along. And it's very close to the Spitzkoppe. But then if you want to actually visit the Spitzkoppe and surrounds, then you still need to leave this camp again and go over to the community camp or area where you could just as well then camp there. Now we asked, formally on the sites, there's no talk about you being allowed to take your dogs along to the community camp. But they allowed us to take our dogs along, and we literally entered the area. All they said is we need to have our dogs under control, or preferably even on a leash. So this camp here, the tented campsite, has the advantage that you have if your dog's along. This is now the community camp. This lady was extremely friendly, and when I explained to her that we don't have leashes along, she says, well, as long as they're obedient and they listen, then that's fine. But like I said, you have to pay once more, and then you get closer to the places and to the obviously the mountains. Now, why I took these pictures here is just to illustrate that all over you've got various campsites, and at the entrance you actually even have showers. Now this is a bit of a pool that's up the mountain a bit. My dog obviously reckoned it wasn't yet cold enough, so he had to cool down a bit. But fact of the matter is that this is very nice. You can see there during the day it still becomes very warm, all of us having shorts on. And all over you've got these campsites. So what the result is, I think this is actually the better option if you can just organize for your animals to be taken along. But it might be that you don't take your animals along. This thing, by the way, is called the bridge. It's adjacent to the Spitzkoppe, a bit further down. But like I said, very nice places to go and visit. You can see there people taking their children up. It's quite hazardous to actually get there, so I was surprised that the people who took their children along. I mean, this is Spitzkoppe poor. It's granite to a degree that you don't see every day. It's the other thing is obviously this time it's lush. it's green, there's lots of grass and vegetation, something that you don't always see at the Spitzkoppe. It's invariably a site that is extremely dry, extremely hot, and we were just delighted. The weather really welcomed us, and the whole area was so nice to look at. Like I said, I've never seen it like that. Obviously, then in the evening, having a bit of a braai, and so the facilities at Tented Camp, Spitzkoppe Tented Camp, that is, it's called Tented Camp and campsites, and we obviously made use of the campsite. So the facilities are very nice. There's no doubt about it. I just wish that management would enforce their rule a bit, trying to keep their noise levels down. So it was really a very nice trip. I really enjoyed it. But if you, especially coming from overseas, if you intend to go there, I would say, especially if you can camp, go for the community campsites. And I saw that they've got 1 or 2 tents up there as well, and even bungalows. So if I had to give you advice, if you don't have animals along, skip the tented camp, go one further, and seeing that you will go to the mountain anyway, you'll probably climb around and even want to join some of the sites. They actually take you around there. They've got various guides that take you to Bushman art and all types of things that you can have a look, those areas that you can't reach yourself. So I would say the community camp is the better option in that case. So just be sure to do it the right way. Yeah, that was Spitzkoppe. I must admit I was there for the first time in 10 years, and I was a bit surprised to suddenly see that where we could previously drive around and do whatever we did, suddenly you've got this whole site is fenced in, and it's even electric fences. So it's not a matter of simply going there and enjoying yourself. You've got to pay, and you've got to make sure that you know what you want to do. But like I said, every campsite, very clean, very nice. If I had to go again, I'd probably find out whether I can take my dogs along and then just go to the next address. Right, that's Spitzkoppe for you. Up next, we've got the Biennale in Venice. Very interesting. It was a big story in the papers at one stage, and people are moaning and groaning. La Certosa is one of the islands, or little sort of islands just in front of Venice. So if we look at the next map, we get it a bit closer there, you can see it. And that one was dedicated to Namibia, which is obviously a delight to us. The basic principle being, this is what Dr. Marco Ferrario, prepared in his presentation. And as you can see, there's a water installation and various types of exhibitions and the pavilion. It's called the Namibian Pavilion. And it really is a first for Namibia, because what happens is we've got this artist, Ren, R-E-N-N, all in capital letters. And this person has always built these little sculptures all over Cocoland. So if you visit Cocoland, you will invariably stumble across these ones. Because in the beginning you think, who's that superhuman walking along there? Until you come close and you see it's quite nice to see. All over the show you get these so-called stone men, and they call them stone men, or the lone stone men of the desert. And like you can see here, it's found in all various places running around, and that has inspired the art world internationally to invite Ren to the Biennale. Now, the Biennale is not a small thing, and it's not like just deciding you're going to Dubai and have a stand for Namibia. It's on invitation. And so as you can see here, as you go, you will remember on that map of Dr. Ferrario, we said there's a water installation. Here it is. It's one of those stone men was actually put up in the water now, because Ren was literally taken to Venice now to recreate some of these thingies. And Dr. Ferrario has been very, very able to assist him in getting all types of scrap material, because that's what Ren does. You know, the recreation of sculptures with what she has. And here you can see those photos are part of the exhibition. Extremely nice, well done by Dr. Ferrario, who's done a lot of work to get that Namibian flair into it. And I think it's very important to point out that there were a couple of art people that thought this was not a good idea and he was not capturing Namibia. I think people need to understand that this is not about Namibia as such. It is a case of Namibia getting a foot in the door, being able to present an art in Venice. Once you're in there, I'm quite sure in future sometime other art forms may be introduced in Venice, but to just be invited, because that's what they do, they invite you. And the big thing at the moment is the theme of Venice is where does humankind stand if you look at the universe? Where do you find yourself? Do we still believe that we are the center of the universe, or are we just a tiny blip on the radar of the universe itself? So it's a very important question, and that's where this Wren person has been able to capture their ideas, and actually it's a whole philosophy about getting art out there without knowing the artist. So they still don't know is it a she or a he. That's not what it's about. It's about the art form, and what they imply, or what they would like to tell the world is, look at this. These people are meeting, they're talking, and isn't it time for the world to come together and maybe have a re-look at what's happening in our world? You know, this has a bit of a COP26 notion to it, that people may have to start understanding that we are guests in this environment, and that we should treat our environment with respect. And so there is this what they call art tourism, which they're trying to promote through this whole thingy, and hopefully over time we'll have people understanding a bit more about Namibia, and on the other hand, Namibia may be even becoming a focal point in bringing together these people, politicians, whoever, because that's part of the idea, is that maybe Namibia is the ideal place where people can come together and just have a look again at who we are, what we are, where we are aiming, and what we are aiming for. So a very interesting thing. So if you look up Venice Biennale, you will find lots to read there. And I brought it on the show before, but now that show is live. It's there. It's happening. So Dr. Ferrario was kind enough to supply me with 2 video clips, which I combined, or I asked Oscar to combine for me as one video clip, which we'll show you now.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio
Right, and that was the La Biennale in Venice. I hope you enjoyed that. And you might wonder, why did I bring it under destinations? Well, destinations are not only in Namibia. Some of us might want to go to Venice and visit that for a change. Or you might be overseas, a big fan of Namibia, and you're quite close to Venice. Then maybe go have a look and visit the Biennale and see what it tells you about Namibia at that place. So anyway, that's something special for this week. Up next, we've got To the Point. Right, welcome back once again. And you will remember that some time ago we spoke about Earth Alliance, and they were part, that was, remember Jeffrey Barbee, he's been the journalist who's also been writing about the Okavango and the whole gas and oil exploration fiasco up there. He's been writing as a guest journalist for National Geographic, but he's also a director of Alliance Earth, and that got me going, and made contact with him once again, and he was prepared to speak to us. So have a look at the interview. Right, we have asked Mr. Jeff Barbee to join us for a conversation, because we have previously spoken to him, obviously, on Africa Good Morning and also on Tourismus Namibia. And so welcome, Jeff. You're online.
Thank you so much for having me on, Frank. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, like we discussed beforehand, we obviously talked before we actually had this talk. Who is Alliance Earth, and how did it come about, Jeff?
So Alliance Earth was actually born out of a few conversations that happened while I was a journalist based in Johannesburg. And I started in Johannesburg as a photojournalist with the New York Times in 2004 as a freelancer. And we saw already in 2004 to 2007 that there was a massive drop in revenue for stories coming out of sub-Saharan Africa. And we saw a massive hole at the time for environmental and science reporting, because even then, before the 2008 financial crisis, there just wasn't a lot of money for environmental and science reporting. And a few of my colleagues got together, folks that worked at the time with The Guardian, another with the New York Times, and we created the idea that would become Alliance Earth, which is environmental and science reporting in the public interest that is supported by funding from private foundations and individuals, and then published in partnership with some of the biggest organizations in journalism in the world. So we've partnered with Thomson Reuters Foundation, we've partnered with The Guardian, with National Geographic, with the Maverick. We've even partnered with the Namibian in Windhoek. So this is really a foundation that was set up as a 501c3, which is a nonprofit in the United States. And it was set up to finance and pay for environmental and science journalism and education throughout the world.
So with that as a background, how does this relate to Africa as such? How does Africa benefit in a real way about it? And maybe you can also explain how it came to the next step of the dung beetle project.
Sure, thanks, Frank. Yeah, I mean, so this was always a project, this Alliance Earth mission was always a project that we focused on providing high quality information that is 100% factual and fact checked to places that were not necessarily going to have the revenue capable of funding science journalists. Now, science journalism is expensive. It's investigative. which is the most expensive kind of journalism, investigative journalism, but it comes with the added impact of having a lot of science information included in it. So we thought about collaborating here with, for instance, in South Africa with the Department of Education, and providing a lot of this material, which is, stories, videos, and providing it for free through our website, and then allowing students to take up that information, particularly at a secondary school level, sort of 10th grade and over. And then to bring that information out to many more people, obviously we use traditional media like the Daily Maverick here in South Africa, or the Namibian in Namibia. We've partnered with the Botswana Gazette in Botswana and the Nation newspaper in Malawi. And so we provide this journalism, this science journalism. But at the same time, we saw that there was a real opportunity to actually take this information out to schools and learners throughout the region. And one of the things that we came up with, a really exciting mission about 5 years ago, was that a friend of ours had created a system here in South Africa that turned his waste plastic into electricity, and that waste plastic would then power up an art stage. And that art stage was shaped into the fabulous structure of the African dung beetle. And in fact, our dung beetle is modeled on a dung beetle from the Namib Desert of Namibia called the galloping dung beetle. Its scientific name is Pachyssoma. And the idea is that you would take something that's useless, like waste plastic that we have as a crisis all throughout sub-Saharan Africa and the rest of the world, and we would turn to an information delivery system that shares how people can successfully clean up their environment, as well as tackle other environmental issues using science-based factual reporting that we would develop on many of our reporting trips. So that's kind of how the Dung Beetle Project started, as an Alliance Earth physical outreach project that goes to schools. We work with the National Academy of the Arts in South Africa to develop our programming. We work with Department of Education. We work with the Africa Burn Art Outreach Initiative and many other groups here in South Africa to help host these events where we bring music and fun, as well as education and hope to communities that are really facing a lot of challenges here in the region.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing that's going on there, and I can only congratulate you guys. You've been obviously busy for quite some time on this whole thing already. So the next question is obviously, where in Africa is Alliance Earth busy? Where are you engaging? And in a bigger way, especially after you've just told us who's all working on this project, who's engaging with you, how do you see Alliance Earth having an impact in the short and long term on gas and oil exploration, which has suddenly become the big thing in Africa, where Africa is seen as the last frontier for this type of industry?
Well, some of the work that Alliance Earth has supported in the past that was, I would call it, the more hard science reporting that we support. One of them was a film called The High Cost of Cheap Gas. And that film is available for free. You can stream it from my own YouTube channel, which is jeffreybarbee.com. And that's about how the oil and gas business of North America had come to Southern Africa starting in about 2012 to start to develop fracking in first South Africa and then Botswana. And then the story of how we uncovered that and what that means scientifically in terms of environmental and real hard science issues around the effects of this industry on communities. And we base it on the community that I come from, which is a dry land, Western Colorado community that now has about 17,000 active oil and gas wells in it. So when we looked at this problem and we saw the oil and gas business turning up at South Africa with the same promises that they came to Western Colorado with, we thought that we would share some of those lessons. And we actually have a lot of great Colorado scientists and healthcare providers in that movie. It's full of interesting facts. It's got a lot of good science behind it. And in fact, a lot of what we discovered in the course of that movie, which has won quite a number of awards. It's been translated into 7 languages. It's been seen in almost 63 countries around the world. That film has really turned around and been a bit prescient. It's been able to see into the future a little bit. And in fact, what we were afraid of, that there would be oil and gas development by big North American companies, has come to be true, particularly in Namibia, in the Kavango region, where Recon Africa is currently pursuing a drilling program.
Yeah, and the thing is, do you see going forward that gas and oil is listening in any way, or do you rather see that youngsters are picking up on it and that the resistance will come from within?
It's a good question, Frank. Right now, we see is that young people, I think, totally understand the transitional economy into a renewable future. It's the older politicians, and I don't mean just in Africa. This is a global problem. We see a major issue with this sort of fossil mentality that the future look like the past. I think young people who've lived through these incredible changes in the rise of cell phones and new apps and new ways of doing stuff, their minds are pliant. They're capable of envisioning a future that isn't controlled by the oil and gas business. And make no mistake, this is not just, like I said, a Namibian or a Botswanan or a Southern African problem. Communities in the rural west of the United States have been fighting oil and gas for almost 30 years. This is a problem that isn't going to go away without most of society standing up and saying we want a different path. And I think that that's where this should go. Namibia also at the moment is looking towards a green hydrogen future. And that's a future that, is reliant on solar energy to deliver low cost hydrogen that can be converted into energy a lot cheaper and a lot more less energy intense and less pollution than the oil and gas business. So Namibia is really at a crux here because, with only a couple of million people, it could really leapfrog in the future and show the world, including the youth, the way forward in terms of let's leapfrog over the bad decisions of the past. If you want to develop an oil and gas field, you're only going to get energy out of it in about 10 years. That's what it takes to develop the field, develop the energy system that's going to provide the power from that field around 10 years. But if you develop a solar farm, like here in South Africa, from the moment that the paperwork in South Africa is signed under the Renewable Energy Power Procurement Program here in this country, it's about 7 months until that solar system is delivering electricity into the grid. So that's on order of magnitude, much faster, cleaner, cheaper, and better. It does it for about 1/10 now of the cost of developing a new oil and gas field and creating new power structures that support that. So when we look at renewables, they're already cheaper. They're way, way faster. They are the future. And the question is whether or not a country like Namibia wants to get behind these old and, quite corrupt practices of oil and gas of the past, or wants to shine a light into the future and be looked at as sort of a guiding, I would say a guiding lantern into the energy of the future that the world needs right now.
Yeah, I suppose that would be your final message to Namibians and SADC at large, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I think that there's a great opportunity and there's a lot at stake here. Companies and countries that focus on collaborating to create an energy future that allows all of us to live in a more secure environment and not go through these dirty problems and poor practices that other countries had to battle through. It's easy. Right now, we can just leapfrog all that and put ourselves and our people here in the region on a path to much better prosperity and energy security. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, that was Jeffrey Barbee. Jeff, thanks very much. We had a bit of a problem to get hold of him, but I'm so glad it actually worked out. Thank you very much, Jeff, and we'll see you around.
Thank you very much, Frank, and the rest of the team at Tourismus, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you. Right, that was Jeffrey Barbee. Now you will remember his face again, I'm quite sure, because you would have seen him previously on Africa Good Morning, one of our shows, and also on this show here, Tourismus Namibia. And he kindly supplied me with a bit of a video about Africa Burn, the show. Just have a quick look. Africa Burn. That's just a short little clip. It wasn't long, but just to give you an idea, these guys are actually very active on our behalf. So if I say on our behalf, obviously including Namibia, because they don't only do it for Africa, they do it for all of us. So that is our show for today, and I hope that you enjoyed it a little. I hope it was informative for a change as well. For a change, I hope we're always informative. Anyway, this is our show for today. I hope to see you next week on Sunday again. Until then, remain healthy, look after yourself. Just remember, COVID might be less, but it's still around, so look after yourself. Until next Sunday,